So with this image, I wanted to introduce what most people think of when they think of digital art, and it's the illustration side of it. Illustration is art that's made to be reproduced. And so digital art is kind of a unique media to be able to work with as an artist because you can create reproductions that can be perfect reproductions. You don't have to worry about scanning a watercolor or photographing an oil painting, or even getting a good scan of like a charcoal drawing. There are artists and illustrators, many today, that work entirely digitally just because it's faster and it allows their ideas to be more versatile. So I did a little example here. This is a pre-existing reference, and this was a Nico the Nighthawk I designed for a stare-taking competition that was through the wellness committee on campus. And that is kind of our campus mascot that we've adopted. So I wanted to make a Pokemon kind of version of him with the resurgence of Pokemon in popular culture over the summer. And so these are kind of the basic steps that are most common in digital art for illustration. But we're going to show how we go beyond that in the class. And so it starts just like you would start any traditional art form. We sketch in sketchbooks. We do a lot of that. And then once we kind of have an idea of what we want, we can bring that into the computer with a digital camera or by scanning it. But then with the refined vector outline, this is where the tools are a little different. Whereas traditionally you would take tracing paper and you would take ink pens and you would do a refined inking. This is digital inking. And we use a program called Illustrator that we learned in Digital 1, which allows us to do renderless outlines, which means that you can zoom in on them endlessly and they'll match any resolution. And that's because it's not actually memorizing pixel by pixel like in a digital photo that you take. Instead, it's plotting points and then the vectors between the points. So it's a much more efficient way to use digital imaging. Once we have that, we can scale that to any resolution. We can bring that into any folder. That's how logos are designed. It's how logo types are designed. It's how fonts are designed, all as vectors. But then it's fun to take that vector and bring it into a raster program. So Illustrator is one program we use. The other program is Photoshop. Photoshop is a program that just gives you control of every pixel on a computer. Every pixel in an image, and then you can layer as many new layers of pixels as you like. So what we can do is bring a vector outline into Photoshop, and then we can color behind it, like putting colored glass into a stained glass framework. And we start, it's just very basic, and it's very familiar to anyone who's done watercolor painting or done any kind of coloring, even just a coloring book. You first fill in flats within your outlines, and then you can build up different layers of value and tones on that. So I start with flat local color, which is the color the thing is, no matter the lighting condition. Like Charlie Brown's shirt is yellow. Doesn't matter if he's in a dark closet or if a train's coming towards him on a train track. There's a base local color of yellow. And then on top of that, you can add certain highlights, like I just have white cutout highlights here. Then you can change it from flat color to duotone color, where you take that one local color and you split it into a highlight and a shadow. And you just build from there. And eventually you can even replace your vector outline. As you can see, it's black here. I replaced it with kind of a sienna red color. And then I can paint over the top of it with these little highlights. And these are called color holds. So that's the finished design. And the way I teach the class, and you can click on this if you like and see it, you can also email yourself this PDF document if you would like, to refer back to it or to send it to people if you're interested. It's just a fun, and it's my original image. You don't need to worry about copyright or anything like that. So if you open up that bottom link, you'll see how the class kind of runs. And this is actually a public web page that we output from the class. And this gives all my video tutorials from each class. So if you go to the playlist, this is the one where it links to that talks about designing Nico and coloring him. And so I'll turn the volume off here. But you can see it goes through, step by step, all of those procedures. And then the reason we do that, and we do them in 15-minute chunks and then put them together in playlists. And we can work from reference and we can do lots of different things. But the reason we do that in a digital lab is because there's a lot of information, and the best way students learn is to just get in there and try it. So I demonstrate, and then I work with them on theirs. And they're doing their own vision. They're going to have their own issues. They're going to come up with their own solutions. But this gives them kind of a safety net. So if they think they missed something important and there's not lab hours, there's not class time for them to ask, they can review a video and remind themselves. So each project, we do about 10 projects a semester, full projects like this. Each of them have a playlist of usually between 7 and 12 videos, 15-minute videos. And we'll usually get 2 days to work on a project within class time. Now, because you're not required to have a computer, have Photoshop, have Illustrator, have a tablet, have anything in order to take this class, and we have lots of students that are brand new to digital art, and we don't want to make it intimidating or expensive, I try to offer lots of lab hours as well. So every day of the week, Monday through Friday, there are hours when any student can come in and work with this software. We also have Macs in the library. We have a Mac in Student Commons, and they are loaded with this software as well. So we try to make it accessible. So you'll look at the, let me go here, the first link. If you click on the old Nico, that links to a page, a resource page we use a lot in the class. And this won't be active when you're from an external computer because you don't have the login information. But when you're in class, you'll have the login information for this. And this shows student work going on right now. This is the latest stuff we're doing in class right now. We're doing digital paintings. Digital 2 are doing their final animations and their pencil tests. And this gives you a good idea. You can scroll through. There is a lot that we conquer in a semester. And we start it all. I'm going to go to the very beginning of this semester, just so you can see how it builds, the knowledge builds. Because we started all with compositing from photos. And that relates to digital photography. It relates to image editing. But we don't learn anything about how to take pictures with a camera. But we learn everything about how to manipulate pixel-based raster images. I'm asking a lot of photo bucket right now. So I told you about the versatility of illustration. And so that Nico design, once I have a design as a digital image, it can be outputted as a sticker. It can be a phone case, a t-shirt. It can even be rendered into a pattern for fabric, for silks, for cotton. So that's why digital is an important skill to have as a modern artist. So you can understand how these things get reproduced in the culture. And any reproduction of art now goes through a digital process. So even if you're an oil painter, it's good to know the basics of digital imaging so you can know how to make sure your work looks good on a website, how it translates well if it does get printed in a book or in a catalog. So that's a big part of what we do with digital art. All right, so another resource this is something you can do at the end or just on your own. But if you click on my little final Nikomon there, this is a little recruitment video for digital art we put together, and it's entirely student work from the last 2 years. And it shows some of the photo composites that we do, some of the animation we do, and just lots and lots of different resources that you can check out. I like to really point out all the varied career options for an art career where digital art really gives you a leg up. These are careers where digital art experience is very, very helpful and usually required in today's world. So whether you want to be a designer professionally, whether you want to be a storyteller professionally, whether you want to be a commercial artist professionally, these are some common areas that have a lot of overlap with what we study. So illustration and sequential art. Sequential art can be everything from comic books to children's books to storyboarding for movies, graphic design, font design, logos, layout, figuring out how posters, images, and text work together, concept art, fan art, video game design, character design. You see some of that here. Special effects for live action movies, computer generated imaging, typography, advertising. Fine art applications are really interesting in digital art because it allows fine artists now to project their work, to do things like whole buildings that are wrapped with animations, to do a lot of interactive installations where they use digital technology, and then of course animation. And so it's an intro course that tries to touch on exposing you to all of these different areas. And amazingly enough, throughout the course, by building it from raster images and compositing other people's pixels, making your own compositions with them, which is more design-based, to drawing your own vector images and designing your own logos, to then doing your own spot illustrations, and then your own digital paintings, and then your own final concept work, your competence in these really grow. So just like you would in a drawing class, in a painting class, you would expect to see a lot of growth. But the hardest thing is to get students just to commit to trying this new tool and to try it out. But any other art skills you have, any other art experience you have, help here. It's not like it's a completely new experience. All right, so the demo I wanted to show you, if you would go to your doc at the bottom and just click on where it says PS, that's the Photoshop. So I've put together a little character animation demo. And this is a demo file that you guys are going to be working with. So we can use a mouse for this, and that's just fine. But you can also use the stylus in front of you and the tablet. And this is what we do a lot of our fine-tuning with. And it works just like a mouse. You just tap in order to click, right? And it will track your movements. So what I'm going to do is go to this top tool, which is called the Move tool, right there. And I want to just show you the layout of Photoshop. Now I have it set in an animation design framework right now. So this is a little bit different than what it would be with digital painting. But you'll see on the right-hand side I have layers. And so I want you to turn on and off these layers. So the first is my character design. So it's floating on top of everything. So you can turn that off. Next I have a little reference for anchor points that we're going to be using for animation. You can turn that off. And then lastly I have the background. Photoshop shows emptiness with this grid. So this is no pixels. And if we were to print this out right now, it would be white because that's just the white of the paper. But we'll start with the background. We'll put that behind everything. We'll give ourselves a little reference template. And then we're going to turn on the character. Now, in order to animate, why animation is so much you have such an advantage as an animator working digitally is because you can make perfect copies. And so I'm going to make a perfect copy of this layer. And I do that just by hitting holding down the Command button and then hitting J on your keyboard. So Command J is to duplicate. And it won't look like anything happened, but you will have spawned a new layer. So hold down Command and then hit J. And so now we have two identical character layers. Now, the reason that's wonderful is because now I can alter this character layer and it can become an animation sequence. So the way we're going to do that is with a tool called Puppet Warp. And we go up to Edit and we find Puppet Warp and we click there. And what it will do is it will break my character design because it's just a two-dimensional shape. Photoshop doesn't know the difference. But it breaks it up into a kind of a chicken wire mesh of anchor points. And so we're going to plot anchors. We're basically going to click, and this is honestly a little bit easier with the mouse than with the stylus. Where all those red circles are, we're just going to click an anchor point. And it helps pin our Nico character in place so that we can animate him. And I only have seven anchor points, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's enough. So in order to actually start to animate him, now I'm going to use these anchor points, now that I've plotted them, and I'm going to move them a little bit. So I just click on them and move it. So I can move his head down a little bit. I can move his wing out a little bit and down. I can move his head just a little bit. We don't want to move him too much all at once. I'm going to keep his foot probably where it is, but then I'll move his bottom just a little bit. And then you'll